Hey everyone, Scott Sambucci here. Welcome to the Sales Acceleration Call. I'm going to wait for a few more people to log in here, and then we will get underway. So I'm just going to switch over to my slides for now, and catch up with some people on the chat while we can do that. So if you're logging in and you can see the chat box, go ahead and just let me know that you can see the chat box so that I can send you notes and we can communicate in that way. Okay, thanks. Okay, guys. Hey, this is Scott Sambucci. A couple of minutes past the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and get started here in a couple of minutes. So, waiting for a couple people to log in. In the meantime, sit back and relax, and make sure you have a bottle of water or coffee or whatever it takes this time of day to keep yourself going. We're going to go pretty quick. I just have a couple of quick things I want to share, some ideas based on some feedback that was given to the folks that filled out some questionnaires last week. And so I just want to focus in on giving you a couple of really specific ideas that you can put to work right away this week. So just hang tight and we'll get started in just a minute or two. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said earlier, this is Scott Sambucci, and we're kicking off the Sales Acceleration Call for this week. This is the first this week that we're doing. And so what I'm going to do is just run through a couple of ideas that I had put together based on some feedback I'd received, some survey responses, questionnaire responses from some of you. Looks like some folks are joining right now, so let's hold on a second. Hey, Kenny, how are you, man?
Doing good.
Good, good, good.
Is Webinar Jam, is that link working, or are we doing this through Hangouts?
It should work through Webinar Jam, but if you're on the Hangout, that'll work too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead.
I can't hear anyone right now. Everyone's on mute.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
There you go, Kenny. How about you, Arthur? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Okay. Will was trying to jump on. Is he? I don't know if you can get him or not.
Let's see. Let me just send him a link here. I'm going to send him a quick note too. I just included the link to the Google Hangout.
Got it.
Yeah. Cool. So Arthur and Kenny, I'd emailed both of you just to see if you had any specific questions that you wanted to have covered, and both of you had said that you didn't have anything specific. Has that changed, or do you want me to just kind of share some ideas that I put together?
Nothing's changed for me. I think really for me, I just wanted to just not miss this, right, and kind of get whatever the kinks worked out are, and just trying to figure out. Well, there was the one question that was there was we got the 2 calls a week. Do we need to be on both? Is there a different? Just generally. So I think it's still kind of structure process.
Yeah. So the calls I've set up, you're welcome to join whichever ones you want. They're here to answer questions, and they're here to share ideas. So there's no structure in the sense that you have to be here, otherwise you are out of the program.
Yeah,
they're designed to help you. So right now they're on Wednesdays and Fridays. Wednesday it's kind of the midweek to give you a chance to see if there's anything that you want to push through by the end of the week, and then Friday is about celebrating any accomplishments we did, and then planning for the following week.
Okay.
So those seem to be pretty good times based on people that had shared some preferences. They might change around, they might switch week to week, but those are the times for now.
Okay. All right. I mean, the toughest part is like getting started. So, and kind of transitioning. So with all the stuff that we have been doing it, and kind of and integrating them into this structure and framework. So.
Yeah, I understand. The first week's always a little bit tough because you're trying to get into the flow, and so it's good that you're just hopping on here. And if anything, then maybe I can share a couple of ideas that will give you and Will and Peter some ideas to shake loose a couple of things that you're working on right now. And then you can always schedule, a short time with me anytime that you want to do some one-on-one time.
Awesome.
All right.
Hey, is that Will?
Yep.
Hey, Will. Good to see you.
What's up? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Congratulations on being a married man now.
Thank you. I know. It's settling into the married life.
Yeah, that's great. So Kenny, can you still hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly fine.
Great.
Just one comment. Yeah, I went through all the material already. It's unclear when or how I'll be able to talk with everyone else in my team. So not really sure what type of questions I would have during this session other than here.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, I think a lot of it is just kind of showing up and getting into the groove. And I sort of assigned the first homework assignment is going through that sales builder, this thing with your team, both individually and then with your teams, because what I've found already in that working with teams that the way that the same team members answer those questions is different, and so it's an opportunity for people to get on the same page in terms of how you're thinking about the problem that you're solving or how you're targeting the right people. And that was really the goal this week, is to get, because there are several of you, like the 3 of you, there's 3 guys from Knogle and there's 3 guys from Tricro, all working in groups as part of the program. So trying to make sure everybody's on the same page is a key part of getting started. So does that make sense? So some of the things that I had prepared, and I can just go through these pretty quickly. Prior to getting started, I'd sent out a short questionnaire, a short survey to people just to identify what some of the short-term wins were that people were looking for, as well as some key areas that they found as particularly challenging within the companies. And a consistent theme was around lead management and lead development, lead qualification. And so I just put together a couple of short ideas that might be actionable for you, so I can just share those with you, and then we can kind of circle back and see how they might apply to you. So if you guys are good with that, I'll take about 5 or 10 minutes and run through them.
Awesome.
And then we can see if there's anything from there. So I'm going to go ahead and mute a second. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So so the idea here, of course, is we want to do something, do something quick, kind of accelerate things. And so, as I mentioned, one of the big questions was around qualifying and managing leads. So for you guys in particular on the call, I know that you've been up and running for a while, and you've got some leads in the bucket somewhere, and you're trying to figure out. Part of the challenge is that maybe you have too many leads, and you're trying to figure out which ones are qualified and which ones aren't. And then you've got some that maybe you're spending a lot of time with, but you can't get them to convert from lead status to a real sales opportunity and development. And so that's a different problem than I'm trying to get my first lead. So the focus of a couple of things I prepared were more around, I've got people in my queue. Some people are just sucking time for me, or I can't get them to reply to me, or I'm not sure. They say they're interested, but they only kind of surface every couple of weeks or every couple of months. So I was just kind of going through some best practices that I've used and I know other people have used. And so I came up basically with 3 questions that you might want to ask to the leads that you have in this situation. So, and the way I always think about this is, treat it like an experiment, right? So if you have, 100 people in your lead bucket that are kind of in this wishy-washy stage, then maybe carve out 10 or 15 and try this approach with 10 or 15 before you run from 1 to 100, and then say, well, those didn't work, or that worked, or whatever. So the first question that I usually that's a good one to ask, like when you first get somebody on the phone, or if you have somebody that maybe you've talked with but you haven't necessarily talked with them in a while. One thing that I like to do is double back to people. So you can do this either in the initial call, or you can double back to people with this question and say, gosh, I know we talked 3 months ago, and I was racking my brain, I was going through my notes, and I was trying to remember, like, how have you tried to solve the problem that you're that we're trying to tackle here? Or like when you initially contacted me 3 months ago, you said that you're trying to get better at X, Y, and Z. Could you remind me what you've done so far to solve this problem? And what that might do is, first, it can qualify somebody, because if they don't really know how they've attempted to solve the problem in the past organizationally, then they might not be a qualified lead. Like, there might be somebody who's trying to solve the problem but isn't the right person, isn't the decision maker in the organization. So, and I've faced this a lot. As an example, when I worked in the software industry for Blend, I worked at a company called Blend, and we sold to mortgage banks, mortgage lenders. And a lot of times what would happen is we'd get leads from people that were like assistant vice presidents or even VPs in these larger banks, which, at Wells Fargo, for example, there's like, 1,500 vice presidents or more. So everybody's a VP, and everyone wants to be the hero. And so they would reach out, and then they would try to generate a sales conversation about a problem that was much higher than their pay grade. And they really didn't have a sense for what the real initiatives were or had been around the problem that they said that they had. In our case, it was around mortgage originations. And so that was a way for me to kind of disqualify somebody as potentially somebody who might end up being a vampire, somebody who's going to like suck a lot of time from you that isn't really a decision maker. And so then for somebody who has, like I said, that has been in your lead bucket for a while, maybe just taking this approach would help to spur up a conversation again, because you're not specifically asking them for, hey, what happens next, or let's have a meeting. You're almost asking them to help you understand why they came to you in the first place. So I don't know, might be useful, might not be. So that's one question you might try using.
Yeah.
Another one, and again, this is a both for qualifying people that are coming in, but then also for folks that you may have talked to and they went a little dead or a little dry on you. So you can ask people, how urgent is this problem, and just ask them directly. And I think what you'll find is that on the qualifying stage, you'll get people, they'll just tell you, like, well, we're just kind of like figuring out what's out there. We're contacting a couple different vendors, or I came across your website and I was just kind of interested to check it out. Versus somebody who says, yeah, so we are desperately trying to fix this problem by the end of the year. We have this specific timeline in mind, or whatever it is. I mean, generally people will tell you, if you ask this question, how urgent the problem is. And then you can also then couple that with the first question, which is, okay, well, if this is urgent, what have you done so far to solve this problem? And so that helps you understand those two questions together can help you figure out whether or not this is a really qualified person. Because if this person says, yeah, this is really urgent, but they can't tell you how the problem has been attempted to be solved in the past, well, they might have just been going out on the lark on their own trying to figure out what the solution is, and they want to be the hero, and they want to come back to their team and their boss or their boss's boss and say, hey, remember when you said we had this big problem? Well, I just found the solution. And meanwhile, their boss's boss has been working hand in hand with another solution provider already. So again, and then for the folks that have been kind of sitting around for a while, you can just go back to them, and I've had lots of vendors do this to me when I was a VP of sales, when I would look at different platforms that might help with sales performance around, whether it's webinar software or Yesware and like other types of software that would help me track things. I would go check things out and I would do a demo, and then I would just kind of go cold on them because it was just like me checking it out. There wasn't a lot of urgency, and I've had people email me, three or four times, and have to, try to follow up, and then maybe like the fourth time they'll just say, listen, I know you're really busy. Can you just let me know, yes or no, is this a problem that you want to solve right now? Because if it's not, I'm going to quit bugging you. And if it is a problem, then let's hop on the phone right now. Here's a link to schedule some time with me. So just understanding the urgency can be useful. And then the third one, which can be useful, again, in both cases, qualifying when they first contact or later on, which is who else in your company is usually involved with these kinds of decisions. So again, this helps you qualify whether or not the person is a qualified lead, because again, if they're sourcing information from you about what your product does or what your service does, and they're firing all these questions off, well, again, like, you don't know, are they the decision maker, or who else, in your case, enterprise software or enterprise services, there's going to be more than one decision maker. There just is. Nobody's going to spend $10,000, $100,000, $1 million just on their own. They're going to have other people involved with the decision. And so instead of asking them, like, are you the decision maker, you just ask them, who else in the company is usually involved with these kinds of decisions? Or who else do you like to consult with internally when you're evaluating these kinds of services? And that's a non-confrontational way of figuring out whether or not that person is in fact a decision maker or not. And again, they'll say, well, yeah, well, what we would ultimately have to do is get our product people involved, or we'd have to get our IT people involved, or we'd have to get our VP of marketing involved. And you go, great. Who is that person? What do we do? What should we do to set up the next conversation with them to get those people looking at what we're doing? So it helps you understand what the landscape is in front of you. You can start identifying different buyers or different people influencing the purchasing decision. And then on the flip side, if they go, well, I'm not really sure, or, well, I'm going to make all the decisions, in both those cases, you're probably not dealing with a decision maker. And so at the start of a sales conversation, again, this is a good way to find out pretty quickly whether or not somebody's qualified. And then if it's somebody who's been dry or hasn't contacted you in a while, then you might double back to people and say, listen, I know it's been a little while since we talked. Are you still responsible? Are you still looking? Are you still responsible for this decision, or are there other people that you want to get involved that I might talk with, or can I help you organize a meeting internally to talk with folks about our previous conversation? So you're just looking for a hook, another opportunity to get in touch with other people in the organization, and if they help you and they know who those people are, then they're a good lead. If they don't know or they're not willing to help you, then they're probably not. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Any questions on that? So any questions on those questions? Is this useful, helpful?
No questions. Very helpful. It's a good refresher too. These are all, not not foreign questions, but good to be reminded of. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
And just
helpful.
another comment. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah, no, and even if you don't ask them to the other person, just thinking about them yourself, some of them you can kind of answer yourself in terms of qualifying and knowing who to focus on. Just thinking about it. And then if you really don't know the answer, then you go have the conversation. But I think in terms of like filtering, this is just a good thing to think through just by yourself. So that's just a comment there.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Arthur. I mean, if you have like, let's say you've got 10 of your you've got 10 people you've identified that you think are your top leads or the people that you want to be your top leads, go back and recount those conversations and look who they are. Like, are they, an assistant vice president or are they a senior director? And that in itself can help you figure out whether or not it's worth spending time with those people. And if they're a lower level person that's maybe not the decision maker, well, then that's an opportunity to go use LinkedIn, for example, find their LinkedIn profile, and then start kind of mapping out the organization, because there's this cool little feature which is people also viewed. So sometimes if I can use that as a way to start looking at other profiles of people that might be senior or somehow connected to that person internally. Or you can go to the company page on LinkedIn of that company, and it'll usually list all the people that are employed there. And it's a little bit of manual work, but at least you can start to maybe sketch it out. Just take a white piece of paper and try to sketch out organizationally who else might be the kind of person involved, and then maybe call that person or email that person and say, hey, a few months ago I talked to Joe Smith at your company, and he was really interested in learning what we do, and I thought, gosh, oftentimes when we work with companies, people like you are involved with that decision. And so what you've done there is kind of created some internal momentum, like, oh, Joe already talked to you guys, that's interesting. Because that person might tell you either, well, I have no idea why Joe contacted you because he's not involved with this stuff. Or they might go, oh, yeah, I'm really glad Joe contacted you. He's been really busy, but yes, this is a big priority for us. So you're just starting to kind of create this fabric of both communication, but also to identify urgency, and then also, of course, to get other people involved, so that don't rely on a single point of contact to justify whether or not that person is a lead or not a lead, because there's all kinds of people in a company that are going to be involved with these decisions.
Yep. Okay.
Cool. Another idea to go back. This is particularly good, again, both for like you getting a new lead, but also a lead that's been dark. So a lot of times, we get a new lead and we don't want to let that person go. Like, we got them on the phone, they called us, there was an introduction, and we're really excited. We're like, wow, this could be a perfect fit. And a lot of times we often will extend the conversation longer than we need to get to the next step. Or we end up dumping everything on that person. Like, after the call, we'll say, look, yeah, I'm going to send you my PowerPoint deck, I'll send you some case studies, and we'll do all those things, and then you look at it and then let me know what you want to do next, which is actually the next slide, which is ask yourself, who's in control of the next step. I love this slide. But it's true. It's like, once you relinquish control of the conversation, then you're relying on this person to then take the next step, and oftentimes they won't. And there's this interesting law of diminishing intent. It's called the law of diminishing intent, meaning like somebody might call you with some perceived urgency or the desire to take action, and then you have this great call with them, and then if for some reason something comes up over like 2 weeks or 3 weeks and they don't get back to you, now maybe in their mind it's like, well, I didn't take care of that thing 3 weeks ago, and now I'm busy with this other stuff, and while it was urgent 3 weeks ago, now it's not. And so all that excitement that was lost in the first call is now gone. And so one of the things I like to do is withhold information, especially in a first call, and I'll say, wow, like, I'm really glad we're talking. I think I've got some ideas forming on how we might be able to work together. Give me a day, and let me put these together. I want to go knock it around with somebody else here in my office. So maybe it's, Will, you say, like, I got some ideas. I'm going to go talk to my CEO, Arthur, or Kenny, it's like, yeah, I've got a meeting later today with Peter, or I've got a meeting later today with Nick, and we have to go through some other client stuff anyway. Let me present to him our conversation, and then let me get a few of these ideas together, and then let's get back on the phone next Tuesday, and I'll run those by you. So how's your schedule look? So now you've kind of created some anticipation that, wow, okay, like, yeah, okay, cool, he's valuable, he's going to give me some information, and you've created this kind of like, oh, I wonder what he's going to come up with. And so it's a way for you to stay in control, and also in that next call, I mean, you do have to come back with a couple of specific ideas, but now you've raised your level of value to that person because you're not just there to sell the service, you're actually participating in idea formation and ideation and helping them figure out maybe what their problem really is and how you might be able to solve it in ways they never thought that you could solve it. So those early leads that come in, it's a good way to kind of automatically get a second call. And then the other thing you can do with that second call is like, hey, you know, when I share those ideas, who else should we maybe consult in your company, or who else would you want to bring into that call so that you know, they can hear this stuff too. So now you're kind of like coupling together and mingling different tactics here that we're covering. So in that second call, you get 2 or 3 people involved, and now you've got more contacts. You're not relying on a single person, and you're in control. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other thing that's useful, and I've done this with dormant leads, is gone back to them and, you know, gone through. And again, you can't do this with everyone. You want to pick the ones you think are the best ones, or the most important, or the biggest, you know, whatever metric you want to use, and say, you know, hey, John, you know, I know we talked a couple months ago. You know, I ran across this article, you know, related to your industry. You know, find something, and then say, you know what, it really reminded me of our conversation, and I put together a couple of ideas from our previous conversation, and I want to share those with you. When can we hop on the phone? And so if that person is an executive, it's almost like their corporate duty to listen to somebody who says that they have ideas to improve their situation. So it makes it feel like you've been like on the hunt for them, even though it's their fault because they haven't gotten back to you, even though you've tried a couple of times. But again, you're putting yourself in this role of kind of consultant, expert, trusted advisor, as opposed to like, hey, I want to get you back on the phone so I can pitch you again.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing that a lot of times will kind of regenerate conversation that has otherwise gone dormant. And then in that second call, if it's been a while, you can ask them like, yeah, I've had a few ideas. Before I share them with you, by the way, has anything changed in your situation? Because I know it's been a few months. And so again, you're withholding, getting them to tell you how the situation may have changed or not changed. Or maybe they say, yeah, 3 months ago this is a great fit for us, but we ended up solving it internally. Or, yeah, 3 months ago when we first talked, it wasn't the right time, but I'm really glad you called because we just had this meeting 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even think to call you, but I'm glad I got you on the phone. Here's how it's changed. You know, we want to do this thing by the end of the year. We just did our 2016 budget, whatever it is. And you go, oh, great, tell me more about that. And then at the end of the call, you can go, oh, well, the ideas that I had were this, this, and this. So again, it's just using that as a way to get in touch with people that is going to pique their interest, as opposed to can I get you on the phone to pitch you.
Okay.
Yeah. So the last thing that is that just basically ask yourself. You know, again, you can go through your previous leads that you've worked on that have maybe gone dead and said, you know, who was in control of that next step? Did I let the person tell me like, oh, this sounds great, I'll get back to you, or did you take control? Did you take leadership? Because I think in both of your cases, both with you, Arthur and Will, and for you, Kenny, I mean, you guys have such unique offerings. I mean, these people need you to take leadership in the next step because they don't know how to buy your stuff. In a lot of cases, it's not like they're buying, you know, like we need 1,000 50-gallon drums that they can get from anyone. I mean, these are like totally unique offerings and products that have never existed, or services that are totally unique that may have never been purchased before. So they don't even really know how they should be buying your stuff. And so that's where you can really take leadership in those conversations and say, well, here's what we should do next. Like, let me sit down with Arthur, come up with formalize these ideas. We'll talk on Tuesday. Who else should we bring into that conversation? And then based on that conversation, we can decide whether or not to pursue a more serious conversation about working together. So you kind of make it feel like even these early conversations are just precursor. They're not even serious. You're just kind of checking each other out. Initial call, then they share some ideas, and then they figure out whether or not this is a good match. So just remember, you're a peer to those people. You're just as important as they are. So take that leadership, because they need you to help them figure out how to buy stuff.
Got that.
So.
Okay.
So that's really all I'd kind of put together, and that was just again, it's first few days for you guys getting started, and you didn't have specific questions, but I know those felt like questions that you had based on the information that you had
Awesome.
shared in those.
Yeah, no. So we Will and I still have to go through some of the first assignments that you checklist, and I missed the assignment of going through the first charts, so I may have just completely.
Yeah, this is just 2 online presentations. One is just kind of getting started, which is an overview of how we work together, and then the second one starts looking at the Q framework, which is the overall workbook that we'll be working our way through.
Okay. Yeah, and those 2 I looked at, and like I said, maybe I missed the last part of this in terms of the assignment, because I got the checklist, and I actually
there should whether or not been able to download this worksheet. It's called Sales Builder, and it's just a way for you to kind of start diagnosing.
So that paper was the assignment that you're holding?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going through that framework, okay.
Yeah.
And I was working on the, I guess I overlooked the questionnaires too, but I was working on that right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But that's what you're saying. I think it was question number 1 was the kind of theme was managing and qualifying.
Yeah, like several of the people that are well, almost everyone, when I asked like what was a burning issue or like what's hard.
Well, that was mine. So.
That's always the hard part, right? And getting interest in the product is actually less of an issue. A lot of people are going to be interested in your product, so we have to get them interested in buying your product.
Right.
And that's where the lead management and lead development comes in. So if you guys don't have any other questions, we can just kind of end it there. This is recorded, so we'll be able. I'll post that as well in the next couple of days, and all of them will be posted over time. So you'll have a library of these that you can always go back to and refer to. So and even if you miss one, then you can always go back and watch it in your own time.
Okay.
We cool?
All right, Scott. Thank you.
All right, Kenny, are we cool?
Yes, we are.
All right, awesome. All right, well, we good?
Yep. All good.
All right, guys. Well, have a great week.
All right,
and
you too.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
See you guys.